Please welcome Adam Cox and Aviv. Welcome back. Hey! Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank
Been
you.
a great afternoon, hasn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it's not your first time in Stockholm, no.
No, it's not my first time in Stockholm, but
No.
I probably haven't been here for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Sorry
nice to
about
be
the
here.
weather.
Well, it's 25 degrees in London,
Yeah,
so yes, it's
yeah.
a bit cooler here, but
So introduce yourself and your role at NBA.
yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, obviously brilliant to be here. Always great to be in Stockholm. Great to be with Aviv.
Thanks.
Great to see some familiar faces as well. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Adam Cox, and I work in the NBA's London office, looking after our media distribution for Europe and the Middle East. So licensing the NBA content in the region, including the Nordics.
And you have a video.
I think we do. Yes, if you could put it on, that would be great.
Yep. You're controlling it?
Yeah, okay.
Volume up.
Volume.
Aviv, you're supposed to sing at this point.
Forgot about it.
Brace yourself
Can
for the
dance.
pulse-pounding global spectacle that is the NBA, where unparalleled athleticism meets unrivaled entertainment. For nearly 8 decades, the NBA has showcased the ultimate display of premier talent and enduring personalities. From legends of the past to today's superstars, the fabric of the NBA is woven by an extraordinary cast of iconic international superstars. Every game is a breathtaking exhibition of intense competition and raw emotion. Performances that have the power to leave you speechless and in awe. The NBA captivates the world and constantly redefines the harmony between sport and culture, uniting people, forging lasting memories, making a positive impact on communities, and inspiring future generations. The NBA, a worldwide cultural phenomenon like no other.
Wow. So why is NBA seen as one of the most innovative sports leagues in the world? What's the innovation mindset behind it?
It's a good question, Eleanor. I think you're right. It's a mindset. I think innovation just runs throughout the organisation. From the smallest details to the biggest projects, we're always looking to see how we can do things better, how we can improve, how we can keep moving forward. I think probably the best thing is to give you a story. So I joined the NBA 10 years ago, and in the first week we had an internal meeting and we were discussing the NBA app. So I went into this meeting and everybody was scathing of the app. They were saying it's not fit for purpose, it needs to be better video, better this, better that. And I'm sat there and I'm thinking, wow, this is one of the most innovative apps out there, and they're literally pulling it to shreds. I mean, I didn't dare say that in the meeting, but you know, I kind of thought that. But also at the time, I realised, you know, this is the place that I want to work. So that's just a little story. But I think, you know, innovation-wise, we tend to focus on 3 main things. So there's the competition. So how can we actually improve the NBA competition? There's the media output, obviously extremely important. And then the globalization of the sport as well. So they're the kind of 3 areas that we tend to innovate within.
We'll talk about that. But can you say that innovation is the culture? Is a culture?
It's an absolute culture, absolutely.
You feel it directly when you start to work with.
Yeah, and I think the great thing is that, you know, there's things that suggestions that I've made perhaps when I was more junior as well, and they actually come through to fruition. So people, you know, there's obviously a hierarchy, but you know, everybody's opinion counts. All ideas are seen as good ideas, and we take them forward. And some of them don't work, you know. Let's be honest, but yeah, as I say, we innovate on all levels, and we're always pushing the boundaries, which is it makes it exciting.
I have something to add here. NBA is going through lots of layers of like if something goes wrong, like I know like there's a ripple effect internally, and everything is super important and everything is meticulous, but they're still not afraid to try new things and constantly change and adapt. And to Gabriel's point earlier about we're going to try it. If it doesn't work, we're going to change it. But we're not going to be afraid to innovate and to try new things. For leagues at that size, like we work now in the States with the NBA and with the NFL and with all the major leagues. NBA is always trying to do things first. It's a mentality thing versus like the other big leagues are trying to see that something works before. Not everybody, like they all have different ones. But if we'll talk about, don't want to talk anybody down. But if I compare
But
to
they're
other,
unique.
yeah,
that
but they're
way, yeah.
unique that way that everything like and I mentioned this also earlier. Like WSC is now a partner of the NBA for 11 years. And we've been like with the heads of digital that we've been working with on the product, on the content side, we've been pushing each other a lot. And it's not only in this case, it's a partnership we're very proud of because it's not just us coming to them with the next idea that we have, it's also them pushing us and coming to us with like, okay, this is great, but we did this last year, what's next? And it's always I think it's been a symbiotic relationship. It's pushed us upwards and it pushed the NBA upwards, and yeah, it's going great.
Sure.
And then everybody else will come, hey, look what the NBA did, so let's do this too. So that works for us.
So let's get into structure. Adam, can you give some examples of how the NBA has improved its competition structure in recent years?
Sure. So if you go back to COVID, so in 2021 we launched something called the Play-in Tournament. So this was a brand new tournament, and it straddles the regular season and the playoffs. So ultimately, it sets the final two places in the playoffs. So if you come 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th, you then have single elimination matches to get into the playoffs. So as I say, we launched that actually in Orlando during the hiatus when we started back up again in the bubble, and that's proved very, very successful for us. Also, last season we launched a cup competition, the NBA Emirates Cup.
That was a bold move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, to win the NBA Finals is very difficult. It's a very long regular season. The playoffs is best of 7. So, realistically, only a few teams can win the NBA Finals. And we looked around at other leagues, what perhaps football leagues were doing in Europe, and just love the idea of this sort of single elimination cup competition that can throw up surprises. And so we launched it. So I say launched that 2 seasons ago, and it works a bit like a Champions League where there's the group stages and then you have the knockout. And then you have the semi-finals and final that's played in Las Vegas. So that, as I say, obviously something completely new, and that's been great. Then perhaps the final one just from this season is the All-Star game. So for those perhaps NBA fans out there, it has been a bit of a damp squib these last few years. Very little defense played, very big, high-scoring matches. And so we had to change it. So we did away with the All-Star game, and we put in place a mini tournament. So it's a 4-team tournament, 2 semi-finals and a final, first to 40 points. So again, a bit of a different format, and it worked really well. It gave a really good,
The way you hoped.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It gave a really good end to the All-Star weekend. And yeah, that's just a few ways of how we've improved the competition recently.
All-Star changes a lot. It's a good place to also try things, try different formats, try different even rules or whatever. And it can be a test bed for other things.
Yep.
And the reaction after NBA Cup?
Well, the reaction's been great. As I say, because it's single elimination, it just gives the opportunity for other teams to win it. So a perfect example was that LeBron James and our aging Lakers won the first NBA Cup because they said, you know what, we want to be. Well, I basically want to add to my legacy and make sure that I'm the first winner of the NBA Cup, and he went out and did it. So saying, yeah, he was opposing it originally, exactly. So, again, there is always a bit of opposition to change, but again, I think as Aviv spoke about, we like to try things, and yeah, it's proving successful.
And of course, it's not just about how the game is played, it's also about how the game is experienced. So let's turn into media. How could you give some examples? Could you give some examples of how the NBA has improved its media offering?
Absolutely. So I think probably best I'll break it down into 3 buckets. So broadcast, so TV broadcast, social media, and then digital. So the NBA owned and operated platforms are our app and League Pass. So just starting off with broadcast, and I think the key innovation that we've done there is to try and nationalize the content. So to give you an example, obviously we're here in Europe. We've got 60 players now from Europe in the NBA. When we have 2 players in Sweden. So through WSC, one of the key things that we're doing is for every game that Pelle Larsson plays or Bobby Clintman, we're bespoking highlights of those players, and we're providing it to TV4, our broadcast partner, and they're able to then put that out on their channels. So perhaps, Aviva, might be a good moment for you just to speak a bit about exactly how that works, because obviously Sweden's just one country, but we're doing that across the whole of Europe now.
Sure. One of the key, one thing that's also special about the NBA is like they promote a lot the league through the stardom of the players. Like each of them is a superstar, an international celebrity, and the following of the players is driving a lot of the interest. Many fans are actually fans of the players more than they're fans of the teams, and they follow them wherever they are. And being such an international league, like the player specific stories, like it's the local hero also in so many countries. And we've been giving this example now for 10 years of like Steph Curry had 53 points one night, but the same day the French player Rudy Gobert had 6 blocks. In France, that video performed better than Steph Curry's 53 points, which was the biggest story of the night. But in France, the local hero created more views. So now doing that at scale across the entire international ecosystem, and like giving each fan in each market their own content serving. Also, NBA is operating different social accounts in different languages. So there's like an NBA Turkey page, an NBA Spain page on Facebook, on Twitter. So serving up all these different markets with tailored content for what they know this audience resonates better with this type of audience has been driving like a digital strategy, but also helping the local broadcasters create a following for the NBA in their markets.
Yeah. Well, what else we've done with on the broadcast side is, traditionally we've put 1 game per day on a European satellite, and everyone in Europe has to broadcast that game. Whereas now we've moved more to SRT delivery, where, say, our broadcaster Go3 in the Baltics can select Sabonis games and Porzingis games and games that are, going to resonate more in that individual market. So that's some of the ways that we've been kind of nationalizing the content. We've also brought in some new formats. So for the NBA, the probably biggest barrier is that majority of the games are in the middle of the night in Europe. And when I joined the company kind of 10 years ago, we had some sporadic games in European prime time, but now we've set up NBA Saturdays and NBA Sundays, which every single week of the season, you've got a European primetime game. So it just gives that sort of branding, but it gives that appointment to view in European primetime. And again, obviously the audiences are bigger for those games than the games in the night. So that's been a way that we've innovated on the broadcast side. And we've also created a program called NBA 360. So if you take the last game of the regular season, all 30 teams are playing, all in European prime time, and everyone's obviously fighting to get into the playoffs or the play-in tournament that I spoke about earlier. And so this is a 5-hour broadcast, and you jump from game to game, covering the best of the action as it gets exciting, as I say, as all the playoff places get finalised. So that's some ways on the broadcast side. Aviv spoke a little bit about social media, and it's also been spoken a bit about earlier. But I think the NBA was a bit of a pioneer in the, 20 years ago when social media launched. Most federations were very protective and they weren't putting any content on social media. We had the complete opposite approach. We felt that this would be the way. This would be the top of the funnel, the way that we can get Gen Z, Alpha, demographic watching the content. So we proliferated content on social media, and then now, as I say, you sort of fast forward 20 years, and we're bespoking content depending on the platform. So what goes on YouTube is very different from what goes on Blue Sky, which I think is the most recent one that we're creating content for. Also in the social media space, we have an influencer program. So we're working with around 100 influencers around the world to create kind of behind the scenes content around the NBA. So this perhaps isn't, sports influencers, it's more in the entertainment world, culture, etc.
Is that one way to grow on international markets, influencers?
Yeah, well, it's a way of appealing to wider audiences.
Yeah.
And actually, perhaps Aviv, you want to
Yeah.
mention that, because you guys are the hub behind that for the influencers.
Because
Yes.
you're really global brand, so
Yeah, we have this program now. We're working with a list of like approved creators that the NBA has a collaboration with. What we identified, this is what NBA has always been working with influencers, bringing talent, bringing Mr. Beast to play at the All-Star and like things like that. But on YouTube, you see all these highlights and you see all these people kind of stealing content and creating all their own narrative, their own commentary, or storytelling around it. This was, though, normally like lower quality content, things that they basically take off without permission. The NBA wants to fuel the cultural phenomenon, but it's also not out of their control, and what they say or where it goes is not under the hands of the NBA. So what we did now, we have this creator program that NBA kind of enlists those creators that have the most following and they want to work with, allow them access to official NBA content and the archive through our platform. We basically give them access to an NBA approved account where they can create content and do their own storytelling, and then NBA can give them guidance, access to quality content, and track their views and share on the monetization. And that started this season. We're seeing hundreds of millions of video views that are now added to the network that the NBA actually has access to and controls. And if we're talking about fan data and everything, like reaching out of the owned and operated environment, out of your own YouTube channel, and kind of letting the fans and the ecosystem do the different flavors of storytelling that the NBA has.
But do you see big differences in what fans want in different markets?
I mean, it's a good question. Obviously, a lot of the localization does come down to the players from that particular country. It does have that's probably the biggest impact driver. We do see that in some countries, perhaps different teams are favoured or different players are favoured. And actually, that's probably a pretty good segue onto looking at the NBA app and NBA League Pass and what how we've innovated there. So if you go back to sort of 2022, we always used to use third parties to do our back end. So Turner did the app for us, and Endeavor Streaming did NBA League Pass, our OTT service, for us. And what we realized is that in the digital space, things move so quickly that you have to be nimble. You've got to stay up to date with the latest trends. So we staffed up and we created our own back end. So we now manage that and create it ourselves so that we can change very quickly. So yeah, back in 2022, we launched new app, focused there. Again, it was spoken about earlier, vertical video. really important for us. That kind of TikTok style. So I think Adam's gone now, but the TikTok style content that's very addictive. Also, customization and personalization is really key on our app. So when you go on, you can select the players and the teams that you like, and then through automated content through WSC, you get served that content. So that's the personalization. That's the level of detail that we can we can deliver to. The next step on that is our OTT service and NBA League Pass. So because we have such a high volume of games, we have thousands of games a season, we've always just needed that home, that houses all of our live games. And we really use that as a test bed now. So yes, you can have that kind of sit back, lean back view and just watch the broadcast, or you can lean forward, you can have it up on your phone, you can click on the video, you can see who's on the court at that time, how many points they've got. You can do quizzes, you can do polls, you can check betting odds if you want, you can change the language, you can change who the commentators are, you can change the camera angle, so you can really personalize it as to how you want it. And yeah, I think it's one of the most advanced apps out there for
I
sure.
can add that internationally, like the games being in the middle of the night, you also have condensed games and highlights in different durations. So it's very popular among NBA fans to follow. They wake up in the morning, they can see on League Pass condensed game of every basket or anything that happened, like without all the timeouts, without anything, like so the different formats and storytelling is there. I want to add another something to what you said earlier. NBA opening every new platform. You said Blue Sky now. Every platform social that came out, NBA were first to opt in and to try it and kind of use it as a marketing upper funnel exposure to the market. When we started 10 years ago, the question was still like, is it a leakage of content that we should be selling? Is it competitive to our ratings, or is it going to promote our ratings? And NBA has always answered, yes, it's supportive to the numbers and to what we're trying to achieve. Back then, the NBA had a 24 billion media rights deal, and I was always throughout the years thinking, let's see what the next cycle of rights would be if we're able to grow that. From 24 to 30, we can say here everything you did on digital was good. They just closed a media rights deal for 76 billion.
Reportedly.
Reportedly, I think the strategy worked. So,
Do you have any questions? Yes. There's the mic. Ja.
That's fine, by the way.
Den är tejpad nu, så du får ingen röra den. Ja.
good.
Hello, hello.
Mm.
It's for you, Adam. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. My name is Simon Schamberg. If you're not fully authorized or updated on this, please tell us so. But I am very interested in this big piece of news that came out of like 2 months ago. And my friend Gabriel immediately jumped on that on LinkedIn and commented. It's the news about the NBA maybe planning a European league.
Yeah.
So my question would be twofold. What would the objectives of such a league be from the NBA standpoint? And what are the chances of this league actually flying?
It would be exciting, wouldn't it? So, globalization is a really key pillar for the NBA. So not just, the US and the domestic market. So, we've, since I think 1978, we were one of the first leagues to take games outside of the US. And yeah, key for us is to grow the game of basketball around the world. And one of the things that, or one of the innovations, as we're speaking about now, right, is that 5 years ago we launched the Basketball Africa League. So what we saw in Africa was that there was some really great talent, but there wasn't that pathway into the NBA. So we created that league in order for that talent to flourish. And the Basketball Africa League is ultimately the top tier of men's basketball in Africa. and we partnered with FIBA on that. So as I say, sort of 5 years down the line, that's been very successful. We do see an opportunity or a missed opportunity in Europe, and as I say, given what success we've had in Africa, we do feel that we'd like to explore the opportunity. So again, in partnership with FIBA, we're speaking with all of the stakeholders here. It's very early stages, but yeah, we're seriously exploring the opportunity of launching a league in some guys here in Europe. And I think ultimately the reason for that is because basketball is the number 2 sport in Europe. But we're certainly not seeing that from a business perspective.
Besides the direct business of the potential, for the NBA, if they can make you a basketball fan, either participate or anything, you'll be also an NBA fan. So like if you take 20 years ago, the biggest sports in China was ping pong, following now table tennis. Now it's basketball is the biggest sports in fandom in China. NBA were able to do that, and that means even if you're a fan of your local team, you're also going to be an NBA fan for them. So that's a strategy. I think next, if NBA was able to like penetrate India now the same way, then you'll have another billion fans. So I think Europe being the market that it is another smart strategy. Sorry, you were going to have a follow-up.
Do you have another question?
Yeah, the follow-up question would be, do you think that there is a risk that such a league would maybe, how would you say, rattle the European existing basketball ecosystem?
So
now, there is a very successful Euro League in Europe, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Olympiacos, and so on. And then the big NBA comes in. Is there any risk with that?
So we always try and be collaborative. Our sole goal is to grow the game of basketball around the world for the benefit of everybody. The European League, it's very, very early days. But we are seriously exploring it, and we're engaging all of the stakeholders here. So I think whatever the outcome is, it will be done in the right way, and it will be done for the benefit of basketball in Europe.
More questions?
My name is
My
name is Caroline. I work with the European Hockey Club Alliance. WNBA. Can you talk a little bit about that? How had that impacted the NBA?
Yeah, no, listen, absolutely, a great topic. The WNBA dovetails very nicely with the NBA. As the NBA season is finishing, the WNBA season is starting. Actually, it starts on Friday. And then it runs throughout the summer. And then when the WNBA is finishing, that's when the NBA season starts.
And we're talking about off-season problems. So,
yeah. No, exactly that. I was thinking the same thing when we were speaking about it earlier. And obviously, we've had some, huge players very recently in the WNBA. So, Sabrina Ionescu, and obviously Caitlin Clark, which I think most people would have heard about. And yeah, it's ultimately had a massive impact on the WNBA because ultimately, when TV audiences go up, then broadcasters get more behind it. Then the advertising comes and the sponsorship comes, and then obviously it snowballs from there. So 28 years in, I think the WNBA is. Obviously, it's not at NBA levels at this stage, but we are seeing phenomenal growth. So year over year, I think the audiences are up 150% in the US, and we're starting to see that trend internationally as well. So I would say with the WNBA, we're only going to ultimately see growth from here on in, especially as women's sports in general, not just basketball, is getting more and more popular around the world.
Thank you. So the last questions from me. What can other leagues learn from the NBA when it comes to fan experience, VR, or when it comes to everything?
Well,
sending Adam. Tell them everybody what they need to learn from him. No, I'm joking.
No. And honestly, I say I don't think it is that. I don't think it's what can you learn from the NBA. It's we have our philosophy, and as I say, it's an exciting place to be. It's an exciting place to work, and the world is changing so fast that I find it great to work for a company that's always thinking forward and thinking for new things. So, ultimately, I don't know what other companies can learn from the NBA. All I can do really is share
You're so
how I
shy.
feel about it and what our strategy is
Yeah.
and what we've done, obviously, in innovation and on this panel here. So yeah.
When it comes to fan experience, what can they learn from NBA?
I mean, the fan experience, I think it's just taking the sport to the fan wherever they are. So, there's new platforms cropping up all the time. There's new interests that young people have all the time. You just have to adapt. So wherever the young demographic is, you need to be there. So, we've experimented in the metaverse. You mentioned VR. We do stuff in VR. So I think that's the key thing really is
we're now working on this kids content as an example. NBA pushes this strongly. Another thing the NBA is now taking in-house more is some of the different type of storytelling more of the production flows, because they have now new media partners as of next season. So some of the things that were traditionally done by Warner Media, by Turner, will probably, instead of being done just by the broadcaster, the NBA takes more ownership, so they can control and help their partners to do the storytelling properly. So new partners like Amazon that are the first time like going into telling the story of the NBA and having to cover from a storytelling perspective, like now more than 1,000 games. Like it's not like they broadcast everything, but they're gonna try and be a home for NBA as well. So NBA is taking on more ownership there, and we're trying to spread the gospel of what NBA is doing everywhere. So like we're trying to show what works, and trying as WSC we're trying to bring the best of breed solutions that have been successful at the NBA to every other sports as well. So thank you.
Thank
for
you
that,
so
Adam.
much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Huh.
Are you going back to London tomorrow?
Back to London tomorrow.
Yeah, are you
Yes.
going to see the game tonight?
Absolutely. I can't
Absolutely.
wait for the game tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to that arena before. I've heard it's just been redeveloped, so I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to the game for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam, thanks for
Steve.
coming, especially from London to join us today and tell everybody what the NBA is doing.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. I mean, obviously, we've worked with WSC for 10, 11 years, so
Yeah.
you feel like family. So,
Thanks a lot.
pleased to be over.